Hey there, I'm Deirdre Fay, and I wanted to talk about what happens with conflict and relationships and how we can repair them and the things we need to keep in mind. But I've been doing a lot more research about it. We've been talking about it in the Safely Embodied Learning community. So I've got a lot I wanted to share. Because you know what? Sometimes it happens. Relationships blow up. We can do everything we can and still something happens. This is the nature of connection. It's the nature of relationships. Nothing's wrong here. We just have to learn how to navigate it and see, do we want to repair this? When do we want to repair it? How do we repair it? And what gets activated inside of us? Because often what gets activated is the old attachment patterns that we haven't cleared up. So let's look through this and see if I can help you with it. So what helps us navigate the turmoil? One of the main things I've learned over the years is something that I learned from John Gottman years ago when I did his couples training. Really, really helpful. Gottman does a lot of research with couples in what he calls the love lab. And in that love lab, he hooks people up and he has grad students evaluate all the physiological responses and the verbal cognitive responses, all the cues that are in there. One of the main findings was that for every one, even slightly minimally difficult thing that happened, you needed to have 5 positive things to offset that one. For every one little thing, we need 5 things to help dissolve that one. Think of that. He talks about it as the emotional bank account. When you have that much money in your emotional bank account, you have resilience, you have capacity. And this is what we want, and this is what we need in relationship. And in fact, it's one of the things that builds a solid, steady, secure self inside. If we don't have that, it's easy to get thrown off course. Now think about it for yourself. How often you say not just one crummy thing to yourself, but you are consistently laying down a lot of stuff on yourself, and how hard it is to recover from that. So what if not just internally you started noticing and lingering on the positive, turning toward what we call the nourishing opposite, but what if also you started doing that with the relationships that you're in? Really actively seeking to find the best in that relationship and build that relationship out. That's one powerful thing that we can do. Another thing that I've learned over the years, this is making me feel old to say that, is that mistakes arise as wisdom. Mistakes arise as guidance. They're not meant to shame us or humiliate us. We are going to make mistakes in relationship. Guaranteed. Guaranteed we're going to make relationships. Issues, mistakes, problems. But can we recover from that? Now, many of us who didn't have secure relationships growing up aren't going to have learned that inherently. Then it's not going to be native to us, but we can learn it. In fact, Carolyn Lyons Ruth, one of the major researchers, talks about having a collaborative communication with parents and children, and they actually teach mothers, fathers, parents how to do that. One of the key components is to have a parent or a caregiver be actively interested in the child, in the development of the child, breaking tasks down into small, tiny, manageable steps so that the child can take those kind of steps. And we need to do that for ourselves too, because this is the developmental task that we're faced with. How can we take this big task that we have to do of growing and developing and flourishing and make it small enough so that we can take those small steps? The other piece to really remember is that conflict is a necessary part of development. Ed Tronick, the infant researcher, tells us that stress is what develops character. Now, most of us just run away from that kind of conflict. I know it's not my favorite thing. I had to train myself to be able to be a container for conflict, and also to know when I wanted to engage and when I didn't. You know, how much of it I could engage in, and how do we do that, and how do we stay in relationship while there's a conflict going on. One of the things I talk a lot about is the developmental task of becoming an adult versus the developmental task of us as children. As children, we we develop a self by having somebody else out there mirror who we are. And that's wonderful. And I'm so grateful people have that. And if you didn't have it, what's left, the residue, is we still have these developmental parts of us, young infant parts that want somebody out there to see us so that we can feel good about ourselves. And the adult developmental task is different. It's not that we shouldn't get that from outside. Of course, we need to have that kind of mirror and we need to have that kind of connection, but we need to first be able to land inside ourselves. Know that we're here, see ourselves, and then be in relationship with the world from that place. It's a hugely different task that's in place. And that is part of what eases the relationship turmoils that go on. So key to that is being able to name what's going on inside of ourselves and name what's going on outside. To be able to even just name, this is conflict, this is not helpful, this isn't working, let me just take a breath, let's slow down. And over and over and over in my trainings, this is what people find is most helpful. Learning how to slow down the process so that they can actually be inside themselves, connected to another. Then we need to be able to concentrate. You know how easy it is to get triggered by all the many things that are going on? I certainly do. I was on a call earlier today. I was just thinking about that, where I could have gone with the negative, and instead I thought, okay, there's some truth here. I can take responsibility for what's there, and I want to keep directing the conversation in a certain direction, and which would be more helpful to me and to this other person. Then, of course, we need to have the capacity for a self-compassion, to be kind to ourselves, to recognize, like, wow, I'm learning. I'm still in this. I'm still taking 1 or 2 steps along the path. I'm not there yet. And how can I be kind to myself in that process? And use that when I land inside myself and ground inside myself to be able to connect with others, and use that as a motivator as well. I know I'm rolling through this quickly because there's so much I want to talk about with it. I was thinking about relationship recently where I got triggered, and how much I needed to have the practices inside me so that I could land on them. I could use them as a habit, as an automatic experience, rather than having the mess blow up even worse and then afterwards bemoan that something happened. By being able to practice when it's least stressful, we have those practices in place when it gets a little bit more crummy. And that's what I want for you. And we're actually Jack and I are going to do a retreat, a conflict and repair retreat. Actually, I'll put that in. I don't think the link is up and running yet. Calm repair, but we're going to be doing that on Saturday, the 18th. So we're going to take a deep dive into that and really look at the specifics. I'll have more on it. I'm going to be talking more about that on Facebook Live and certainly on our email list. If you are not on my email list and you want to be, I'm just going to put there the dfay.com /safe guide is a good place to join us there and be in touch. And I look forward to hearing your comments, to see how I can continue to help you grow, develop, and flourish. Like Bonnie Lee said, it's so true, stress gives me determination to finding a solution. Yes. Yeah, but we need a way to land our hearts so that we can take those steps through stressful times. And then I hope to help you with that. Lots of love to you.